Questing Beath, I think. No, darn it. Questing or Scavenging Ooze is so bad for us. Greetings, everyone. I am glad to be here, and I am glad that you are here. Today is a continuation of our budget series, which we have taken to mean few to no rares in the main. I'm building best of one decks because that's mainly what I play for the stream. That most of these decks, you know, can be played in best of three if altered slightly, and if you were to ask, I would be willing to do or to try and help you with some of those upgrades, but for now, we're playing in this manner. Today's edition is Boros Cycling. So, what does that mean? Well, in the Ikoria set, there were a number of cards that said, pay an amount of mana, discard this card, draw a brand new card, okay? So, like Raking Claws, cycling 2. Target creature gains double strike until the end of turn, but you can cycle it away and get a new card. That can be good. It can allow you to deck very interesting things. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. But what if your opponent's on a no creature deck or something, right? Then you can just cycle it away and it's no big deal. But in this deck, there are also cards from the Ikoria set that had more or had payoffs for whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So you can get one creature per turn. Now, admittedly, that can happen on your turn and your opponent's turn, but you can really get a lot of creatures. Drannith Healer, whenever you cycle a card, gain 1 life. Drannith Stinger, whenever you cycle another card, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Flourishing Fox, whenever you cycle another card, put a 1/1 counter on Flourishing Fox, right? So the idea is, we play a bunch of creatures and stuff that have cycling. All right. It is notable, this version does not only have cycling cards in it. We do have 5 non-cycling cards outside of our best our payoff, which is Zenith Flare. We will get to that. But these are kind of lands here. We're actually playing only 14 lands in, or I'm sorry, 18 lands in the main. So we are buffering that by making sure we at least hit our land drops. So we're actually, with these, up to 23 lands, but they give us something else to do. So this is particularly good if we're in a up against a really aggressive deck, help us gain a little life and block and stay in the game. This also allows us to remove creatures and things like that, right? All the while, you know, keeping our lands from being out of control. It's possible these are just as good if we just fill in some random cycler. We will discuss that further. All right, so how does having all of this pay off, besides the Flourishing Foxes and Valiant Rescuers and Drannith Stingers specifically? Well, in this deck, it's Zenith Flare. 4 mana, instant. Deal X damage to any target, you gain X life, where X is the number of cycling, or of cards with the cycling ability in your graveyard. It is not outside the realm of possibilities for this to do 8, 10, 15, maybe more damage to your opponent. So if we can get in any damage at all, either with Drannith Stinger stinging our opponent, or Flourishing Fox maybe becoming a 3/3 or a 4/4 attacking a couple of times, we can just Zenith Flare our opponent's face and they will die. It is notable, we do have a little bit of a secondary game plan, both of going tall with Flourishing Fox, make this potentially an 8/8, right? And attacking with that. Sometimes just an 8/8 attacking is good enough. But also notably go for blood, lets us fight our opponent's creatures and just gain control if we're on the play. Very important in this deck to be on the play. But also Raking Claws can give a double strike. So if we attack with it as like a 4/4, knock them down to 16, and then we just keep attacking as it grows, and the opponent is just chump blocking, eventually it gets through, we can just give it double strike and hit them for 16 damage, right? Alternatively, if we have the Valiant Rescuer creating a bunch of creatures, sometimes you can go wide enough that you can actually just cast a coordinated charge for 5 mana, give all your creatures +2/+1, and win. Now, admittedly, this is just a one-of, so this is a lot less frequently our backup plan, but I would be remiss not to mention it. That said, is this deck good? It would be better if we had some rares and stuff to work with. It's true, but I think we can get some wins. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are up against Ramo. Good luck, Ramo. On the play, our opponent is aggressively attacking the next phase button, which is okay with us. We've already got a Wind-Scarred Crag in play, and we're going to follow it up with 2 Flourishing Foxes. Yes, please. These cards can get quite large if played early enough in the game. As you can see, between the last game and this game, we actually added Boon of the Wishgiver. This has no text on it. We don't have blue sources of mana because of our budget mana base. It just is cycling 1. That's all this. That's all this does, right? Ooh, Lotus Cobra. Of course, since we pulled some of those MDFCs, we haven't seen them, which is good. But that's actually really good here. If they, of course, block, we will, you know, be cycling for sure. I think we're going to cycle anyway. Yeah. Because our opponent this way drops to 9. They likely have ways of gaining life in some capacity. But we can theoretically, if they cast a big enough creature, no big deal. We can maybe go for blood or something like that. If it's... Oh my gosh, they have the Fabled Passage? That's really unfortunate. They have this Scoot Swarm. Yeah, our creatures don't have Trample, which is unfortunate. We can go for blood and fight the Scoot Swarm, which is nice, but the lack of Trample is going to mean they can do a whole bunch of blocking there. All right. Let's see. All right, so let's just get in. I mean, if they don't block, we can just theoretically kill them. I don't know why they would take it down to 1, but these are game decisions our opponent can make, right? I don't want to rob them of that opportunity. All right. They do the thing, dropping down to 5 life. We will go for blood, fight Flourishing Fox onto Scoot Swarm. It's possible we were supposed to go after the mana there, but I think I would rather just make sure they are low on chump blockers, because as it is, we can theoretically kill them, even if they block both of these creatures. If they kill one, it goes to the bin. We get to 5 their face. They do have this food, so if there's enough mana left over, they can crack the food and gain some life back. Okay, Cultivate, likely not going to get there, Ramo. Likely not going to get there. All right, Lotus Cobra. Going to add a green. Play a brand new land, add another green. This is 3 green now. And Migratory Greathorn onto Lotus Cobra to go and find another land and add a green to the mana pool as well. All right, well, this is good. Okay. And GG. We got there, folks. That's what this deck is trying to do. Get down early Flourishing Foxes whenever possible. Scoot a little damage, finish it off with Zenith Flare. That went according to the textbook. Good game, opponent, good game. Right, here we are, folks. Awa Kete is our opponent. We're going to keep this. We finally have Flourishing Fox on the play. That is absolutely where we want to be. This is the secret sauce, so to speak. Our opponent on Riverglide Pathway and a Spikefield Hazard? Feels bad. Feels bad. Is our opponent on Grixis? They are. Oh my goodness. That is very bad for us, folks. Our opponent being on Grixis is, yeah, relatively abysmal, actually. All right, Maze Mind Tome coming on down. And a tapped land, please. Okay, no tapped land, but that's all right. All right, so let's go ahead, get in. Yeah, we're going to cycle away an Imposing Vantasaur. Make a 1/1 and pass the turn. Opponent going to scry one. It goes bottom, likely looking for an answer to this Valiant Rescuer. Land goes top. Presumably. They were looking for land anyway. And it's a Clearwater Pathway this time. Bone Crusher Giant coming on down, sure. Alright, we're going to cycle away Imposing Vantasaur. Going to make another 1/1. It's a Drannith Healer, so we're going to cycle that one away as well. And another Go for Blood. Alright. We're going to go ahead and get in with everybody. And give Valiant Rescuer Raking Claws for double strike. Opponent going to take 2. Lose their chump blocking Bone Crusher Giant. And we're going to pass the turn. We did forego the opportunity to make a 1/1 there, because we want to have a more informed decision about what to do here. If our opponent's gonna just come up and Storm's Wrath this turn, that would be a relatively expected play. You know, it wouldn't do any good to have another 1/1, right? We don't get a 1/1 off of this because it is not the first we have cycled, right? All right, combat. Let's get in. Opponent, now decision time. I don't think we're going to fire off the Raking Claws. I think it's very unlikely they don't have some amount of removal in their hand. Maybe it's just more Bone Crusher Giants. Maybe it's something else. But, okay, yeah. This makes sense. I am not surprised by that. Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead. Keep it around, I guess. I think we will cycle away a Footfall Crater. There's a Zenith Flare, folks. That's a good one. Opponent going to drop down to 12. Our Zenith Flare on 9 right now, and we do have the mana to cast it. Our opponent going to have the ability to gain 4 life, though. This is very, very relevant. So combat next turn going to be very important to trying to make a decision about whether or not to go all in on this Zenith Flare. Opponent has a Spikefield Hazard. Unfortunate. Okay. Let's cycle away. A Go for Blood. Draw a brand new card. Get another 1/1. There are 5 1/1s on the board, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, that's a good one. We're going to get in for 5 damage. Opponent says okay. Okay. Then let's just wait. If they tap out, we okay. Very wisely does not draw the card there. leaving open the option to counterspell and whatnot. Goes up to 11 points of life. We're just going to say, okay, let all these things happen. All right. We are now on their end step. We're going to try and Zenith Flare their face for 10. We're expecting a counterspell here, but we're trying to fight over this on their turn. Yeah, Thassa's Intervention. Oh, wow, okay. That was really good for our opponent, though. All right. So let's go ahead, get in for 5. And we're going to try and resolve a Drannith Stinger. Okay, it does happen. This is now lethal on board. Okay, Brazen Bower, we're going to send it back to hand. Let's cycle away an Imposing Vantasaur. And a Boon of the Wishgiver. Opponent drops to 4. We now have lethal in play again. And yep, the opponent recognizing they can't answer what is in play, and that will be GG. It's quite possible they may not have had mass removal, no Storm's Wrath, things like that. But as you can see, what we're trying to set up is a situation where they not only had to have an answer for all of these different creatures, but then they also had to have an answer for our multiple Zenith Flares we would come up with. As well as our capacity for refilling the board or just killing them outright with pings and stuff like that, right? Trying to make it so our opponent has lots and lots of answers. Very key in the controlling style games. So anyway, good game, Awaketa. Good game. All right, folks, we're up against Tantal, and you know, you won't see me keep many one-landers. But this hand, I think, is one of those few that I will keep. We are on the draw anyway, and the land is the most likely draw in your deck. So we're going to gain a little life. Oh, our opponent on Poliwag Symbiote. All right. Well, let's Flourishing Fox and Flourishing Fox with the land off the top. Feels good, man. We now get to grow these Flourishing Foxes pretty aggressively. As long as our opponent doesn't interact, we will not be blocking. I assume this means they're going to put on the oh, we thought they were going to mutate the Sea Dasher Octopus on there, draw cards and everything, you know, but our opponent apparently says no, that's not the life we are about. Fair enough. Let's go to combat, shall we? Alright, cycle. Pay 1. We're going to wait to see if our opponent tries to use, like, Heartless Act or something. They choose not to. We're going to cycle away a Drannith Healer then. And I guess... yeah, you know what? Let's just do it. I expect our opponent to have an Eliminate then. But I think we still want to just get in the 4 damage. Brazen Bower. Okay. Wow, that's so much better for us than Eliminate would have been. Holy crud. We are not upset about that at all. Oh my goodness. For sure. Not in the least bit. Maybe we should have held back, though, and just did 3. That's possible. I'm not sure. All right, here's the Sea Dasher Octopus that we expected. Opponent gets to loot, then draw a card when the Sea Dasher Octopus hits. Do they go with the 2/2 body? They do. All right. Opponent finds an island. Has the Blood Chief's Thirst. All right. Fair enough, opponent. Fair enough. Well, let's Flourishing Fox. And Flourishing Fox. Wind-Scarred Crag and pass. We do have a lot of lands here. We kept a one-lander, but we have drawn a lot of lands. Yeah, you see a lot of cards. We have been, we are now 14 cards deep. But, you know, can't complain too much when you keep a one-lander and draw lands, you know? Well, shoot, folks, that's not great. All right. Let's see if this resolves, shall we? Okay, it does. How about this one? All right. Then let's get in, shall we? All right. Opponent just takes it down to 11. Cunning Nightbonder coming on down for our opponent as a 2/2. It is a little inconvenient for us. Yep. Sea Dash Octopus and Cunning Nightbonder getting in. That's 4 damage and a card drawn. For those of you keeping score. Yep. The score now 15-11. And we are just going to go ahead and pass the turn. Another Valiant Rescuer off the top. Actually, kind of a good draw here, I think. So let's go ahead and cast a Valiant Rescuer. See what our opponent has to say about that. Not a whole lot. Then let's get in, shall we? Okay. Opponent. Trying to decide how to go about this. We are, of course, okay with this because we've kind of got lethal and stuff anyway, you know? So I think it makes the most sense to just force our opponent to have blockers and all that. All right. Heartless Act, sure. And we're going to cycle this away, make a dude. Oh boy. The Zenith Flare likely going to lock things up, I think. Yeah, I mean, we're 100% going to... Well, no, they could have a... If they draw a land, they could have a counterspell. So I guess we need to prevent that card draw. So, Zenith Flare? All right, GG, Tantal. All right, folks, we're back here looking at the deck. And, okay, so you should know our ending record was, I think, 4 losses, 3 wins. So we did lose more than we won. Admittedly, I think we had a little bit of wonkiness with the shuffler in the initial games. So you will note we did have 2 Skyclave Clerics and 3 Spikefield Hazards. We cut down 1 of each to go up 2 Boon of the Wishgivers. With our current budget build, there are no way of casting this. This card does not have text. It is just cycling 1. That's all this card reads. Just to make sure we have more cheap cyclers to enable what's going on here with our Flourishing Foxes and all of that kind of stuff. It was possible we wanted more coordinated charge to give us the alternate win condition against Valiant Rescuer, but I elected to have the cheaper cycling here. It's up to you either way. That said, once we made that change, I think things were a little more smooth, and so our first 3 losses were with that initial build. And yeah, we just kept drawing our Skyclave Relic or Clerics and Spikefield Hazards, like either in our opening hand or very early in the game. And one of them would be okay, but when we're getting each of them, and sometimes in multiples, it's like, darn it, we have all these others as 4-ofs. We want to see all of the 4-ofs, you know? So that's why we ended up cutting the numbers down even further. It is possible to run this deck without any of them, I think. So keep that in mind, and your mileage may vary and all that kind of thing. I would consider Coordinated Charge and Boon of the Wishgiver if you chose to go that direction. That said, I would not recommend laddering with this deck currently, unless you have some number of rare wild cards to invest in it. But you will, the games are pretty quick, and you will win some number of games with this deck. It is relatively strong for what it's worth. So that is that portion. The next most important portion is, well, what do you do once you have some wild cards? And first of all, one of the very cool cards that for some reason didn't end up in the list was Yidaro. I thought I put it over here, but it might not have. Sometimes when you drag cards to your sideboard, they don't always make it. This is one of the cards that I really wanted to mention right away, because I think this is actually one of the most fun cycling cards. It cycles just like normal for 2 mana. When you cycle it, shuffle it back into your library instead of your graveyard. Well, darn it, you want cards in your graveyard, don't you, for Zenith Flare? Yes, but hear me out. If you've cycled a card named Yidaro Wandering Monster 4 or more times this game, put it onto the battlefield instead of into your graveyard. So if you come up with enough wild cards, or maybe, heavens knows, you might just have a few of these laying around, you can cycle these over and over. And considering the number of cycling cards you see in the average game, it would not be unreasonable for you to see half your deck regularly. So when you keep shuffling these back in over and over and over, you know, it is not unreasonable for you to cycle a Yidaro onto the battlefield. So particularly, one of the times you will struggle is against controlling decks, where they just won't let you resolve any of your spells, and they just counter all your Zenith Flares, and you just can't finish the deal, right? Well, cycling is not casting anything. It's an ability. So yes, there are technically cards out there that can counter abilities, but they are very, very few and far between, and do not see much play. So this ends up as an uncounterable 8/8 Trample Haste for just a couple of wild cards, and is very sweet. It's also notable that you can cut your lands down even further, quite far, in fact, if you have the mythic MDFCs. Seagate Restoration, Shatter Skull Smashing. These can enter untapped, which is pretty important. There were a number of times in our games so far today we would have killed for an untapped land. It would have really helped a lot. So if you have some of those wandering around, those would improve the deck immediately. The pathways, likewise, they're untapped mana fixing. Specifically, Pillarverge, Needleverge Pathway, very, very important to this deck. Untapped lands, and they will replace the Wind-Scarred Crags out the gate, and the deck gets a lot better immediately just with that. Fabled Passages, also quite relevant here. Because then at least it's, you know, deck thinning, making sure you don't keep drawing more and more lands. Is that really important? Well, no, not typically. It's not super important. But in the numbers we're talking, if you get your land or your lands down to like 16, 14, something like that, suddenly the deck thinning actually does matter more, right? Because you're just, you know, there aren't that many more lands in your deck at all. So worth considering at least. Amaria's Call, also a card. So, but you might ask, well, what the heck? Why are you showing me all these blue cards? You said Boon of the Wishgiver doesn't have text. Well, okay, but there is a way for you to potentially build this deck that is very good with blue cards. You can build it with Shark Typhoon. You've likely seen this card. And getting free creatures when you cycle is very, very good, particularly later in the game. Secondarily, there's Ominous Seas, where whenever you draw a card, put a counter on it. Then you remove 8 counters, and you get an 8/8 blue token. That doesn't say 8 counters, sacrifice Ominous Seas. No, no, no. Omni stays around to keep getting you 8/8s. And this card cycles. So in situations where, oh, it came off the top and it's later on in the game and you're not going to be able to draw 8 cards, well, just cycle it. It's fine. But keep in mind, cycling does count as drawing a card, because you discard a card, pay a mana, discard the card, draw a new card. So you can just get an 8/8 very, very fast with Omni. Definitely worth considering. You also get the opportunity to play Neutralize, a cycling counterspell. So it cycles, it advances your game plan, it helps you win the game by just getting cycling cards into your bin so you can Zenith Flare. But also late in the game, again, against controlling matchups where you're expecting your opponent to counterspell you, you can wait until you have like 7 or 8 lands in play, and then boom, Zenith Flare, your opponent goes, ha ha ha, counter your spell, and then you go, ha ha ha, Neutralize, counter your counter spell, right? Can be very nice that way as well. So definitely worth considering. Again, Pathways helping there as well. Another card you might consider for this deck would be Valakut Awakening. It is a very, very regular occurrence for this deck to get too many lands, because you just cycle so fast. So yeah, you get your land count way down low, but then you see so many new cards, you just keep drawing these lands, and you don't want to have 7 lands in play most of the time. You really don't. But if you have like several, 3 or so Valakut Awakening in your deck, you can, instead of just playing your lands out mindlessly, because, why the heck not? What am I going to do with them? Well, no. Now, you get the lands you need in play, and then you hold on to the rest of those lands, draw into a Valakut Awakening, and then draw like 5 cards, right? And then, holy cow, things are in good shape. It is notable, the cards you discard do not go into your graveyard. They go to the bottom of the library. So you mainly don't want to be discarding your cyclers. You mainly want to be discarding lands and stuff, but still very good. All on a land, right? The other last card that is pretty much an immediate upgrade for this deck, you don't have to change much, is Lurrus of the Dream Den. As your companion, each permanent card in your starting deck has less than 2 CMC or less, right? So the only thing you've really got to change in your main deck is pull out these Imposing Vantasaurs. This is the only permanent that is greater than 2 converted mana cost. This, of course, is an instant. This as an instant, these are a sorcery, so the only permanents, creatures, artifacts, enchantments, things like that, are all 2 or less. So really, the things you've got to change are, you're almost never casting an Imposing Vantasaur. It's in here just because it's a cheap cycle. It only cycles for 1, so the downside is very, very small. Heck, 3/6 Vigilance, you could cast it. So why not, if you don't have Lurrus? It is absolutely a ton better to have Lurrus as your commander if you have the wild card. But again, I wanted to show you guys that, yeah, you can win a reasonable number of games in ranked. I was in ranked. I wasn't fooling around. I'm showing you what it is like in ranked with this deck without any rares. This deck is rare free. No rare lands, no rares in the main. It is, in fact, mainly commons with, a good smattering of uncommons as well. But definitely very, very affordable, and I think it is very good. On the whole, the advantage with this deck, unlike some of our other budget decks, is the number of upgrades you need to make the deck good, and potentially a deck you can use to climb. There just aren't that many. Really, you need to fix your mana base. 4 of these pathways just go a really long way. Some Shatterskull Smashing go quite a ways as well, because not only are they untapped lands, but they're also control spells if you are drawing extra lands. And of course, right now we have Skyclave Clerics, which we are not interested in, and Spikefield Hazards, which we are barely interested in, because we don't have any mythics in the deck, right? So just a couple of those, which you will use in just about any deck, right? These are very powerful cards where if you have red, you will likely have some number of Shatterskull Smashing. They are that powerful. So getting them, just not a big deal. In that same way, Ameria's Call, not too bad. I do think Shatterskull Smashing is the better of the two. So if you're like, yeah, I've got a mythic and I want to get one of these, but I don't, you got to choose. Okay, choose Shatterskull Smashing. The notable exception being, if you're thinking, oh, I want Ameria's Call because I also want to build some other white deck. Great. Ameria's Call is still very good. It helps the deck a lot. So do that thing. That said, folks, let me know down below how you feel like this deck could change for the better. I am not, infallible. there may have been cards I overlooked and didn't think about. And if you think about them, let me know. I want to know, because we're trying to do this to help particularly newer players, but anyone who is wild card poor and looking for a way to get their quests done. Darn it, that's literally what the series for. So your input, there are no wrong answers. You can tell me, oh, hey, I want you to put Rankle Master of Pranks in there. Well, those of you who know what that card is will know it's black, 2, and doesn't have anything to do with hate or cycling. I will probably not put that card in there. But there's nothing wrong with suggesting it and then defending your answer. Why do you think Rankle should go in? Let me know, darn it, and we will discuss it. I love having these discussions with our viewers. So that said, I also have a Twitch channel. I stream 5 nights a week, 6 to 10, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I take Fridays and Saturdays off. But darn it, folks, they're 4-hour streams. That's a long time to be streaming Magic the Gathering. We are streaming 20 hours a week, plus original YouTube content on a daily basis. So, darn it, come on out and see us. We would love to have you. We would love to have you. Come our way and join the party. It is a great time, and you would be most welcome. So with that, I bid you adieu.